So, were the first humans stronger than us? It's a simple question, but the answer isn't simple at all. It depends on what you mean by stronger. And it depends on which first humans we're talking about. The story of human evolution isn't a straight line of us getting weaker and smarter. It's a messy, complicated story of trade offs. We give up some things to get other things. Let's start with the most obvious answer yes. In a contest of raw brute strength, many of our ancient ancestors would have torn us apart. Not just a little stronger, a lot stronger. To understand why, you have to forget about our modern world. Forget gyms, protein shakes, and 9 to 5 jobs. Think about a world where your body was the only machine you had. Your survival and your family's survival depended entirely on what your muscles and bones could do every single day. There were no off days, there was no retirement. Let's look at the evidence. We can't watch a Neanderthal lift a rock, but we can look at their skeletons. And bones don't lie. They are a record of the life a person lived. When you use your muscles, they pull on your bones. To handle that strain, the bones become thicker and denser. The spots where large muscles attach become rougher and more pronounced. When scientists look at the bones of our ancestors, especially Neanderthals, they see signs of incredible strength. A Neanderthal skeleton looks like it was built for power. Their bones were significantly thicker and denser than ours. An average Neanderthal male had a bone structure that would rival a modern elite-level powerlifter or rodeo cowboy. Their joints were larger. Their rib cages were huge and barrel-shaped, housing massive lungs to power a body that was always working. Their arms were particularly powerful. The bones of their forearms show markings for massive muscle attachments, suggesting a grip that could crush things we would struggle to even hold. This wasn't for show, this was for survival. They hunted large, dangerous animals. Not with high-powered rifles from a safe distance, but up close. They used heavy, stone-tipped spears that they likely thrusted not through. Imagine confronting a giant deer or a wild ox with what is essentially a sharpened rock on a stick. You'd need incredible upper body and core strength just to drive the point home and then hang on. Their everyday life was a workout we can barely imagine. They walked dozens of miles a day over rough terrain. They carried heavy loads, tools, food, firewood, their own children. They processed animal carcasses by hand, using stone tools to butcher thick hides and dense muscle. Every task required physical force. Their bodies adapted to this constant demand. From a young age, their bones and muscles were conditioned by a life of relentless physical labor. Even our more direct ancestors, the early Homo sapiens or Cro-Magnons, who lived alongside Neanderthals, were far more robust than we are today. Their skeletons are taller and more slender than a Neanderthals, but still much thicker and stronger than a modern humans. A study of their leg bones shows they had a level of physical activity comparable to modern cross-country runners, but this was their baseline. This was just their normal Tuesday. Think about a simple comparison. An average office worker today might spend 8 hours sitting in a chair. Their biggest physical exertion might be carrying groceries from the car. An early human's day was the opposite. Their moments of rest were the exception. Their bodies were constantly engaged. It's the use it or lose it principle applied over an entire lifetime and across generations. Their environment demanded strength, so their bodies delivered it. Ours does not, so ours on average do not. The difference is stark. Archaeologists can often tell the difference between the skeleton of a prehistoric hunter-gatherer and an early farmer just by looking at the bones. The hunter-gatherer's bones are thicker, stronger, and show fewer signs of disease. The farmer's bones are lighter. Life on the farm was still hard work, but it was different. It was more repetitive. The diet also changed, often becoming less varied and nutritious, which affected bone health. This transition to agriculture, which happened about 12,000 years ago, was a major turning point. It was the beginning of a long, slow process of our bodies becoming less robust. We started outsourcing our work, first to domesticated animals, and then much later to machines. So, if we put an average modern man up against an average Neanderthal in a wrestling match, the Neanderthal wins. It probably wouldn't even be a fair fight. They were shorter, stockier, and packed with dense muscle and bone. They were built like compact bulldozers, but that's not the whole story. Strength isn't just about a single burst of power. What if the contest wasn't a wrestling match, but a marathon? Here, the tables turn completely. The modern human, or at least our early Homo sapiens ancestor, would likely win. Our body plan is different from a Neanderthal's. We are built for endurance. We are long and lanky. We have long legs, especially our Achilles tendons, which act like springs when we run. We have less body hair and millions of sweat glands, making us fantastically good at cooling ourselves down. A Neanderthal, with their stocky build, was better adapted to the cold climates of Ice Age Europe. They were great at conserving heat, but in a long-distance run under the sun, they would have overheated quickly. This is where our own unique brand of strength comes in. It's the strength of endurance. Many scientists believe that early Homo sapiens practiced something called persistence hunting. The idea is that we would track an animal, like a kudu or a wildebeest, for hours and hours. The animal is much faster than us in a short sprint, but it can't cool itself as efficiently as we can. It has to stop and pant. We just keep jogging along, sweating and cooling our bodies. Eventually, after miles and miles, the animal collapses from heat exhaustion. Then, we can move in for the kill. This requires a totally different kind of physical prowess. It's not about explosive power. It's about metabolic efficiency. It's about the ability to keep going and going and going. Our bodies are supremely adapted for this. Our ancestors who could run the longest were the ones who ate, survived, and had kids. So, in the category of endurance, we, Homo sapiens, are the champions of the primate world. A chimp might be able to rip your arm off, but you could easily outwalk or outjog it over a long distance. So, who is stronger? The one who can lift the heaviest rock, or the one who can run for 20 miles without stopping? They are both forms of strength, developed for different survival strategies. Neanderthals used brute force, we use stamina and cunning, and this brings us to the biggest difference of all. Our greatest strength isn't in our muscles or our bones, it's in the 3-pound lump of tissue between our ears. The brain, our evolutionary path favored intelligence. We developed complex language, which allowed for incredible cooperation. We could plan, strategize, and share knowledge across generations. This is a form of strength that doesn't show up in the fossil record as thick bones. A Neanderthal might have been physically stronger, but a group of Homo sapiens could coordinate a hunt in a more sophisticated way. They could create better tools like the atlatl, a spear thrower that dramatically increased the speed and distance of a thrown spear. This tool allowed us to hunt dangerous animals from a safer distance. We didn't need to be as powerfully built for close quarters combat because we used our brains to invent technology that made up for our physical shortcomings. A single human with a bow and arrow is far more deadly and effective than the strongest Neanderthal with a thrusting spear. The bow and arrow is a product of intelligence, fine motor skills, and planning. It's a force multiplier. It allows a physically weaker person to take down a much larger and stronger animal. Is a person who can lift 500 pounds stronger than a person who can build a crane that can lift 50 tons? In a literal sense, yes. But in a practical sense, the person with the crane has more power. Our species strategy has always been to use our minds to overcome our physical limitations. We didn't evolve bigger teeth and claws, we invented knives and spears. We didn't evolve thick fur, we learned to control fire and make clothing. This trend has only accelerated. The agricultural revolution was a mental leap. We figured out how to domesticate plants and animals, fundamentally changing our relationship with the environment. The Industrial Revolution put machines to work, making individual human muscle power almost irrelevant for most tasks. Today, we live in a world where our minds are our primary survival tool. We solve problems with code, engineering, and science. So, in a way, we've become much, much stronger than our ancestors. Our collective technological strength is immense. We can build skyscrapers, fly to the moon, and communicate instantly across the globe. A Neanderthal would see our world as a form of magic. They had the strength of the individual body. We have the strength of the collective mind. There's another angle to consider. What about the peak of human performance? Let's take an average Neanderthal and put them up against a modern elite athlete who has dedicated their life to strength training. Who wins now? This is a tough question. The Neanderthal had a genetic predisposition for a certain body type, wide, dense, and powerful. That was their baseline, but a modern strongman competitor has access to things the Neanderthal never did: a perfect diet, optimized training regimens, and a scientific understanding of human physiology. It's possible that a modern human, with the right genetics and a lifetime of specialized training, could match or even exceed the raw strength of an average Neanderthal. We see people today performing incredible feats of strength, but this is the crucial difference: they are the exception. Our strongest are a tiny fraction of the population who work incredibly hard to achieve that strength. For a Neanderthal, being incredibly strong was the norm. It was the price of admission to survival. The average Neanderthal was likely stronger than 99% of modern humans. We also have to consider health and resilience. An early human's life was brutal. Skeletons from this period are riddled with evidence of trauma. healed, fractures are common, they suffer from injuries that would have been excruciating without any form of modern medicine. They dealt with infections, parasites, and dental problems that could easily become fatal. Many died young. A 40-year-old was a respected elder. Are you strong if you die at 35 from an infected tooth? In contrast, we modern humans are in some ways incredibly resilient. With antibiotics, surgery, and public sanitation, we survive injuries and diseases that would have been a death sentence for our ancestors. Our average lifespan has more than doubled. This is a different kind of strength, the strength of longevity and the ability to recover from illness and injury. We are more fragile on a day-to-day basis, perhaps, but our medical technology makes us incredibly tough in the face of things that used to be universally fatal. So let's try to piece it all together. Were the first humans stronger than us in terms of raw, brute, physical power? Almost certainly, yes. Their daily lives were a non-stop, high-intensity workout. Their skeletons show a level of robustness that the average modern human can't even approach. Their survival depended on their personal physical strength, but were they stronger in every sense? No, we Homo sapiens specialized in a different kind of strength, the strength of endurance. We were the marathon runners of the ancient world, able to outlast our prey and our competitors. This was a key advantage, and most importantly, we cultivated the strength of our minds. We used our intelligence to create technology, from the first stone tools to the supercomputers of today. This technology became an extension of our bodies, allowing us to accomplish feats of power far beyond what any human muscle could ever achieve. We traded brawn for brains, and it turned out to be the best deal in the history of life on Earth. The story of human evolution is a story of letting go. We let go of the need to be individually, physically powerful. We outsourced that strength, first to our tools and our communities, and later to our machines. In return, we gained a different kind of power, to the power to reshape the world. Today, we live with the consequences of that trade. Our bodies are, on average, weaker and more fragile than they have ever been. We are plagued by diseases of comfort, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, right, that come from a mismatch between our ancient bodies and our modern sedentary lives. Our bodies still expect to be chasing antelopes on the savannah, but our reality is sitting in traffic and looking at screens. So when we ask if they were stronger, we are also asking something about ourselves. We are looking back at a time when human life was physically harder, but perhaps, in some ways, simpler. A time when the demands on the body were clear and direct. We can marvel at their physical prowess, at the sheer toughness required to survive in their world. The final answer is that it's not a simple comparison. It's like asking if a hammer is better than a wrench. They are different tools built for different jobs. Our ancestors were physically strong because their world demanded it. We are technologically powerful because our intelligence allowed us to create a world where raw physical strength is no longer the primary key to survival. They were strong. We are powerful, and there's a world of difference between the two.